Welcome back to Dunc and Holder. Joining us on the line, our own Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune covers the Saints, as he is where he is every time this time of year. Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. Josh, we caught Josh fresh. It's early in the week. He's not having to work 24 hours a day yet. Josh, this party's just getting started, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it started in earnest last night. There were plenty of NFL coaches and execs out at the bar late night. So they, because a bunch of people have been here already, like people on the competition committee, like Sean Payton, had to get in early. They do some early meetings before all the players start arriving, and most of the testing, the athletic testing, will begin tomorrow, and that's when everything will start to pick up.
Josh, a year ago at this time is when we started hearing about the Brandon Cooks deal and the potential Malcolm Butler trade. How much do you think the Saints are going to be involved this year in trade talks, whether they materialize or not?
I mean, I think they'll be involved in lots of talks. I mean, you just look at, their situation, and I mean, really, in the NFL, it's crazy to me that there aren't more trades. You look at, the other big sports leagues, and trades happen all the time because, a guy needs to change the scenery. Some teams are looking to rebuild or, clear money. And, I mean, it seems like, at least from, in my opinion, that, the NFL is starting to do more trades. And, I mean, I've seen some reports and rumors out there that this year might be even, the craziest of them all with trades. And I would certainly think that when you look at, the assets the Saints have, plus, all the pieces they have in terms of being able to contend in 2018, that, they might just be a couple pieces away. And the best way to get those pieces is probably through a trade. Because, you look at all these free agent deals, and you have to get so lucky in the free agent market, get somebody who you're not going to be overpaying, who's actually going to come in and contribute more than he did for the previous team, because most teams don't let their good free agents ever get to the market. And then obviously in the draft, the Saints were very fortunate last year to have those immediate contributions, but you can't expect that, most years out of your rookies. For the most part, you don't see their best contributions until year 3. So when you're in a situation like the Saints are, you have to figure that trading for a proven player, even if it costs you significant asset, might be your best move.
Josh Katzenstein covers the Saints for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. He is up in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. Teased the story last couple of days. Josh did a great job diving into the Drew Brees contract situation. I followed up with a column basically saying that there's no real major panic around this. And I almost feel like when you see a random headline, oh, Drew Brees might go to Cleveland, it's almost just manufactured, because I think most people around the NFL know that Drew Brees and the Saints are going to get this thing done. Josh, my column, though, I said it would behoove them to get this deal done earlier so they'll know what they're playing with as far as free agency goes and what they can do maybe to make a trade. I'm sure you're anticipating Drew Brees' representatives and Tom Condon and Mickey Loomis are going to meet up. Just your overall thoughts on how quickly you think a deal might be able to get done, and what the parameters of the deal might look like come at the end.
Well, I mean, it's definitely hard to project that stuff, but I mean, it has to happen before March 14th, and really, I mean, it certainly has to happen for the Saints' perspective, but, I mean, basically, as I wrote in that story, if they don't sign the deal by March 14th, there will be $18 million in dead cap space for the Saints. So right now, all the calculations you see, like I think most people estimate the Saints have about $32 million in cap space. That includes $6 million of dead money for Brees, presumably because just the way his previous contract was structured, with the signing bonus being spread across 5 years instead of, the 2 years that he played on that deal. But basically, I mean, if he doesn't sign by then, the Saints are going to be losing an extra $12 million, because it'll be $18 total million in dead cap space. And that's money that, they would have been able to spend on free agents. And, I mean, if Brees doesn't sign by then, but he does want to stay with the Saints, then he's hurting himself. He's hurting the team. And I'm not saying, that he should, take anything less than what his market value is. But certainly, from both perspectives, it would behoove them to get it done as quickly as possible, and certainly by March 14th, because that's when free agency begins, and the Saints are going to want to know how much money they have to work with. And, as we were saying, if they wanted to make a big trade, like for Jarvis Landry or someone, they want to know how much money they'll be able to spend on the player they're taking in, on any other players that hit the market. So, yeah, pretty much everything that the Saints want to do this offseason is going to be determined by the contract that Breeze ultimately signs and when he signs it. As for the parameters, it sounds like the Saints definitely want him to take a one-year deal, which is understandable. He's 39 years old, and eventually he's going to decline. From Bree's perspective, you would think, most players in his situation would want a little security in terms of length. But if you remember last January, 2017, after the season ended, he said that he wanted to start taking things 1 year at a time so he could just focus on, each year as it comes. Obviously, that was coming off of a third straight 7-9 season, so it's a little bit different now that they're 11-5 and have a really promising roster. But I would think ultimately there's a good chance it'll be a one-year deal and probably in the market in the range of $25 million. I've been saying 25 to 27, but I would think that it certainly seems like to Breeze that winning is more important, and it seems like the Saints are hoping to get him closer to 20 million. So, even if he starts asking for something like 30 million, which he's well within his rights to do. If Jimmy Garoppolo is getting 27 million a year on his deal, what has he proven? Obviously the potential is there, but Breeze certainly deserves to make more than that. If it's just a one-year thing, but I think once the negotiations come down, it'll probably fall closer to that 25 million.
Josh, as the NFL draft prospects start to hit the field for testing coming up, what are you going to be watching? Are there any individuals you're intrigued by or position groups in this draft class that's going to catch your eye more than others?
I'm really just watching the defensive ends. I've been saying that, since the season ended. That's clearly the number one need for the Saints. And I'm really curious because it doesn't seem like this year's crop is quite as good as last year's when it was really deep and, there were teams getting good, day one ready defensive ends in the back end of the first round. And there's definitely a few guys like Marcus Davenport from Texas San Antonio. I don't know if he'll slip to 27 where the Saints are picking, but, he could fall to like 20 just because of, the level of competition he played. But he could also move his way up into the top 10 if he really dazzles during the on-field workouts. I'm really curious to see what Arden Key does. He's a guy who, just in terms of the talent, you would think is an automatic first-round pick, but there's so many other questions. And, if he runs well and, if he impresses on the field, he's another guy that's going to help his stock. Really curious about the tight ends, but I don't know that, at tight end you really can improve your stock that much here. Obviously if you're fast, it helps, but, I think most of these guys, there's so much more than speed that goes into that position. So definitely paying close attention to the defensive ends. And then I always like watching, the skill position guys run. It's always, fun to me to just see if anyone can come close to, whatever record it is. I guess it's John Ross's record now, but, anyone who breaks 4.4 is just, that's just a really impressive feat to me.
Josh Katzenstein covers the Saints for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc Holder. He is up in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. Josh, you mentioned tight end, and that's going to be a position where so many Saints fans are already circling. The Saints need to make an upgrade there, whether it's free agency or through the draft. And do you think the Saints are a team that maybe wants to get a combo tight end? Because we were playing some sound bites from Mike Mayock in his conference call. We played him yesterday, and he was maybe thinking that the Saints would prefer someone who could be good in the blocking game as well as in the receiving game. And some of these guys like Dallas Goedert, that's not their MO. They feel like they're more of a pass catcher. What do you think maybe if the Saints were going to upgrade there, what kind of skill set do you feel like that they would be looking for?
I mean, I see where Mayock's coming from, but I mostly disagree. I mean, I think if you're looking for a guy who's going to make an impact this year, it's probably going to be more of a receiving type of tight end. Certainly long term, I definitely think they need, a dual threat kind of guy who can block, just because, Josh Hill. I mean, Josh Hill isn't that old yet, but I mean, we sort of know what he is. Human's getting a little bit older. I think both of them have 1 year left on their deal, so certainly, for the long run, Saints are going to need somebody who's capable of blocking. But I definitely think that right now one of the biggest holes on the offense is a big-time receiving threat at that position. So I think that is probably the most likely avenue they go. But, I mean, it might be better for them to find that guy in free agency because there's a few good free agents that are out there. We'll see what Tyler Eifert, how he's looking health-wise. Obviously, that's a big question. But, I mean, could you just imagine, what he's – I mean, wasn't he getting nicknamed Baby Gronk? Like, just imagine if that guy comes into the offense and stays healthy. I mean, that would just be huge. I mean, I haven't heard any links between those, but, that's the kind of player I think that they're missing, just a powerful pass-catching guy who's reliable, over the middle, can help you convert third downs. But, we'll see. I mean, they might add a couple of tight ends just because, last year they were getting such little production out of that position.
Sounds a lot like Jimmy Graham. What would you think of that marriage?
Well, it's funny. I actually heard from someone last night that Jimmy might be interested in coming back to the Saints. Now, obviously, it takes two to tango.
We need like that sound effect.
Definitely is, but certainly, I mean, yeah. I mean, that would be like he's obviously not the same player that he was when he was with the Saints. But I would think that a reunion with Sean Payton and Drew Brees would probably get whatever is left in the tank for Jimmy. But there's so many factors that come into that, and money would definitely be one. And the Saints would have to decide, if it's worth it to invest that in a guy who you don't know if he's going to be, as good as he was, in his past life. But certainly, if it happened, I would probably praise it because Jimmy Graham is exactly what they need.
Josh Katzenstein covers the Saints for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. He's up in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. Follow all of his coverage up there at NOLA.com and in the Times-Picayune. Also, Herbie Teope is up there as well. Blanket coverage here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Hey, Josh, appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, no problem. See you guys.
All right, that's Josh Katzenstein up in Indianapolis. Why don't we take a break right here on this show? One more segment, of course, following us. Eric Asher from noon to 2, Chris Gordy from 2 to 4, Corey Johnson from 4 to 6. But we got one more segment here, so don't go anywhere here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc Holder.